Alright, today I want to talk to you about, this lecture we're going to talk about Israel. We're going to talk about whenever it broke up and then whenever it came back together to be a nation. Well, in this, while we do this, you're going to learn a couple of really important things that, everyone needs to learn. And the first one is we'll learn where we're at in God's Word. Like everyone's wondering, how close are we to the end, or are we far away, or what? Which is, common sense can already kind of tell you that things are, coming together, but you want to know where we're at. Well, you'll figure that out today, and within that, you're learning not the parable of the fig tree, but basically the heart of the parable of the fig tree. Not the whole parable, but the heart of it. And it'll tell you whenever, this began in Mark 13, Matthew 24, and Luke 21. In Mark 13 and Matthew 24, Christ told you to learn the parable of the fig tree. Why? So you'll know that everything that's in Mark 13, Matthew 24, and Luke 21, when all that stuff will transpire. That way you'll know. And that's the sixth trump. Basically that's coming up. Well, you'll find out. And you're also going to learn who it was, or what it was, that the two churches in Revelation that were talked about that Christ was pleased with, which is the church of Smyrna and the church of Philadelphia. And if you're not familiar with the book of Revelations, first off, I apologize. I'm sorry for you. But all right, in the first of it, there's seven churches talked about, or they're called candlesticks. And there's only two of them that Christ is pleased with, and it's the church of Smyrna and the church of Philadelphia. And the reason he's pleased with them isn't for their name; it's for what they taught. And what they taught was they taught who it was that claimed to be Jews, but lied and were not, and worshiped the synagogue of Satan. It's Revelations 2:9 and Revelations 3:9 if you want to check it out. Check me out. But okay, well, the first part of this lecture, I'm gonna paraphrase it for you. But I'll tell you where I'm at so you can check me out. Anyways, you need to check out any teacher. If you got any man that's a preacher, teacher, whatever, you need to check them out. Because if they say, well, it says this, but you can't find it in the Bible nowhere, hey, God didn't say it. So, you always need to check everybody out. So, anyways, before we get started, I'm going to say something. Since we're in Tennessee, so we're all Tennesseans. Or are we? I can say I'm a Tennessean because I dwell in Tennessee, because I live here, but in all honesty, I'm not a Tennessean. I was born in Indiana, so I can claim to be a Tennessean, but really, I'm not. I was born in Indiana. Alright, anyways, we're going to start in 1 Kings chapter 11. Alright, 1 Kings chapter 11, first off, you'll learn that you got King Solomon. He's over, right here, the 12 tribes of Israel. That's what they're called, the 12 tribes of Israel. And, well, anyways, we learned that King Solomon, he had 700 wives, and he's got 300 concubines. And a concubine, if you don't know, is a woman basically used for, sexual needs. And it's kind of something that's not talked about. Everybody knows, but it's just not talked about. And, ladies out there, don't be a concubine. You're better than that. But, alright, anyways, in these 700 wives and these concubines, they're called strange women. Well, by saying strange, they're foreigners. They're not from around town. They're all from foreign lands. And in chapter 2 of 1 Kings, or in chapter 11, verse 2 in 1 Kings, like God says in there, he says, of the nations concerning which the Lord said unto the children of Israel, ye shall not go into them, neither shall they come into you, for surely they will turn you away. For surely they will turn away your heart from, turn your heart. Sorry, I'm going to restart this. Of nations concerning which the Lord said unto the children of Israel, ye shall not go into them, neither shall they come in unto you, for surely they will turn away your heart after their gods. Okay? That's why he said not to have foreigners, you know. And it's also talked about in Deuteronomy chapter 7, verses 1 through 4. So he didn't want these foreign women coming because they're going to bring their gods with them. And, I mean, if you got all these women or people, I'm not sexist at all, but, you know, they brought their gods with them, so Solomon started worshiping them. And that made God angry. And God told him, he said, at the time he had the 12 tribes, which was called the 12 tribes of Israel. He had, you know, northern, there was 10 tribes of northern, and the southern ones, you know, it was Judah and Benjamin. Anyways, well, he told him, he said, hey, I'm going to take 10 of them from you, and I'm going to leave one. And so, well then, on over in chapter 11, you have Jeroboam. Well, he ends up leaving Jerusalem, and he runs into Ahijah on the way. He's a prophet, and Ahijah gave him a garment, and then he took it and he ripped it into 10 pieces. Those 10 pieces were symbolic of tribes. And God told Jeroboam, he says, hey, I'm giving you 10 tribes. They were the 10 tribes of Israel. And okay, they're not split yet. He's given them to him. Okay, and then here at the end of chapter 11, we learn that Solomon dies. Okay, well then when Solomon dies, that means that his son Rehoboam takes over. And then in chapter 12, the first of it, you know, Rehoboam, he's king. Well, then all the tribes, they go to Rehoboam, and they, you know, and they're talking to him, they're like, hey, you know, your dad, Solomon, he was hard on us. If you'll be easier on us than your dad was, we'll follow you. We'll serve you. And, you know, Rehoboam, he told me, he said, well, you know what? You leave and you come back in 3 days, and I'll have your answer. So Rehoboam, he went and he spoke to the wise men. He told them what they said. The wise men said, hey, you know what? You shoot you out. You go ahead and you be good to them. If you'll be good to them, you'll be easier than your dad did. You just tell them good words, they'll follow you forever. He said, all right. Well, then he left. Well, then whenever he left, he met, you know, some of his old buddies that he's known forever and he's hung out with, and he told them what the tribe said. And they looked at him and they're like, they told him and said, no, man, don't do that. You go back and you tell them, hey, you think dad was hard on you, I'm going to be even harder on you. Where dad chastised you with whips, I'm going to chastise you with scorpions. Alright, well, on the third day, the tribes come back, and they said, you know, they're like, hey, Rehoboam, you know, what'd you decide? Rehoboam said, well, you think my dad was hard on you? Well, I'm going to be even harder on you, and instead of chastising you with whips, I'm going to chastise you with scorpions. And then, you know, the 10 tribes, they're like, we're out. So they left. And they, you know, they went back because they were from up north. They went up there. And then that's when it split. You had the 10 tribes of Israel, and then you have Judah. Judah was the southern area. And, well, those 2 tribes down there, and it was Judah and Benjamin. And then in 2 Kings, like starting with verse 15 to 18, you can see that here's the Assyrian comes down, and it takes those 10 tribes captive, takes them away. And then in 2 Kings chapter 25, this is 150 years later, Nebuchadnezzar comes down, and he takes, you know, Judah. And he takes Judah, and Judah, right here where Judah is used, that means Jews. So Nebuchadnezzar, he came down and he took all of them captive to Babylon, got them out of, out of Israel. So now over there where Jerusalem's at, that there was no Jews was there. I mean, none of them was there. All right, and I'm getting ready to. I'll show you a picture, because we're going to fast forward some, and we're going to talk about whenever when Israel became a nation again, and then we're going to go from there. All right. Well, here's a picture, and I'll show it to you. Okay, we're looking at Palestine right here. Well, really, I mean, Palestine, they had control over all this. But in 1920, 1920 to 46, the British Mandate put forth the action of the Balfour Declaration, which promised a home to the Jews in Palestine. It didn't give it to them, it just promised them somewhere to live. And in 1921, the Transjordan, the east side of Palestine, was promised to Abdullah. In 1922, British divided Palestine in two. The Jews got to stay in the west side over there, and where it's pink. That's where Israel is now. And in 46, the Palestine that's green side was made to the Arab state Jordan. And then in November 29th, 1947, the United Nations voted a 2/3 majority to split the western Palestine, which is the pink. They were going to split that into a Jewish and an Arab state. Well, when that was heard, the Arabs, they rejected that. They said, no, we're not doing that. And they declared a holy war, and it was just to murder all the Jews. They said, hey, we're going to wipe every one of them out. And, throughout history, we see that the Jews, everyone's tried to wipe them out. I'm no history buff or nothing, but you see that, you had the Holocaust and all that, and then just going back through history, it's always everyone's trying to wipe the Jews out. Well, anyways, here they're trying to wipe them out again. And, well, 1948, the Jews won. And you had, during this time, you had more Jews. They're all trying to get in. They're trying to get back to Israel. They're coming in. And then 1948 comes along. The Jews proclaimed Israel and the War of Independence, and then 1948 is whenever state of Israel, was made a nation again. So there in 1948, that's when all the Jews, or Judah, the word Judah, you can translate that, and it means, Jews. But anyways, here, that's when all of them come back into Israel, was in 1948. Okay, now that we've seen when Israel became a nation, or, when the Jews or Judah returned to Israel, made it a nation, or, Jerusalem, the capital. Now we're going to see what the Bible, does the Bible say, does it talk about Israel becoming a nation again? Yeah, it does. Alright, this is more in Mark 13 and Matthew 24. Christ said, learn the parable of the fig tree. Well, here's the heart of the parable of the fig tree right here. You can flip to Jeremiah chapter 24, and we're going to go with it. Here we go. The Lord showed me, speaking to Jeremiah, and behold, 2 baskets of fig were set before the temple of the Lord. Where is the temple of the Lord? Mount Zion in Jerusalem. So we know that's documenting where we're at, in Jerusalem, on Mount Zion. After that, Nebuchadnezzar, king of Babylon, had carried away captive Jeconiah, the son of Jehoiakim, king of Judah, and the princes of Judah, with the carpenters and smiths from Jerusalem, and had brought them to Babylon. We just learned that, remember? 2 Kings chapter 15 through 18 is whenever he took the northern tribes. And then 2 Kings chapter 25 is whenever King Nebuchadnezzar came down and got the Jews, or Judah. He come and got them. That's what it's just saying right there. It just told us that. And got them from where? Alright, from Jerusalem. One basket had very good figs, even like the figs that are first ripe. Like they're just ready to eat. They're good. And the other basket had very naughty figs, which could not be eaten. They were so bad. They're just, you couldn't even touch them. They're so bad. Verse 3. Then said the Lord unto me, What seest thou, Jeremiah? And I said, Jeremiah said, Figs, the good figs very good, and the evil very evil, that cannot be eaten. They are so evil. 4. Again, the word of the Lord came unto me, saying, unto Jeremiah, saying, Thus saith the Lord, the God of Israel, like these good figs, so will I acknowledge them that are carried away captive of Judah, whom I have sent out of this place into the land of the Chaldeans, for their good. He's right there. He's telling you, hey, I sent them away captive. He did that. God did that. He let it happen. He let Judah get took captive. Why? For their good. Verse 6. For I will set mine eyes upon them for good, and I will bring them again to this land. What land? Well, we learned in verse 1. Jerusalem, Mount Zion. He says, I will bring them. Alright, he says, I will bring them again to this land, a lost place. I will bring them again to this land, and I will build them and not pull them down. I will plant them and not pluck them up. Right there. This right here is letting you know this is a one-time event. That way, this won't get confused with anything else. This happens one time. 7. And I will give them an heart to know. Wait, before we do 7. When did 6 happen? When did that happen? I'm going to read it again. For I will set mine eyes upon them for good. I will bring them again to this land. When did Judah or the Jews get brought back to Jerusalem? That happened, we don't went over that happened in 1948. Therefore, this generation of the fig tree began in 1948, the 5th trump, 1948. So, just so you know, 1948 is when the 5th trump sounded, when all these things that are in Mark 13, Matthew 24, and Luke 21, all those are they'll transpire. So we know the next trump to come is the 6th trump, which is Satan. And who comes at the 7th one? That's when Jesus comes back. He sets foot. Where does he set foot at? Right here in Mount Zion. Right there. On the Mount of Olives. So, and to document that, Zechariah chapter 14, verse 4. There's other places my memory's not all that great. I'm not gonna look it up. I'll tell later. I'll tell in the next lecture more about it. And you got, Acts even tells, right there. See, the first or the second chapter of Acts. Look at the second chapter of Acts. He even tells you right there that they're looking up. The apostles are looking up at the sky, and he's like, "Hey, why are you looking up here for? I'm going to descend the way I ascended." And where were they at? They're at the Mount of Olives. So we know that whenever that he comes at the 7th, we're in the 5th. Next is the 6th. That's when Satan comes back. Alright, 7. And I will give them an heart to know me, that I am the Lord, and they shall be my people, and I will be their God, for they shall return unto me with their whole heart. Right? He's talking about Judah or the Jews right there. He's talking about them right there. And as the evil figs, which cannot be eaten, they are so evil, surely thus saith the Lord, so will I give Zedekiah, the king of Judah, and his princes, and the residue of Jerusalem, that remain in this land, and them that dwell in the land of Egypt. And 9, and I will deliver them to be removed into all the kingdoms of the earth, for their hurt to be a reproach and proverb, a taunt and a curse in all places whither I shall drive them. And I will send them the sword, the famine, and the pestilence among them, till they be consumed from off land that I gave unto them and to their fathers. The sword, that's the sword of the Lord in Revelations. It cuts both ways. That's the word of God. Alright, anyways, we've got this out of the way. we know the good fig is, the tribe of Judah or the Jews. Now these bad figs, who are they? Who's the bad fig? Well, I'll tell you what. You'll flip on over to Jeremiah chapter 35. We're going to find out who these bad fig are. Let's see. And I'm going to read the first 2 verses, and I'm just going to give you these so you can see who we're talking about. We're going to get who we're talking about. You can read the rest of it and you'll see that I'm still on point with it. Verse 1 in chapter 35, Jeremiah chapter 35. The word which came unto Jeremiah from the Lord in the days of Jehoiakim, the son of Josiah, king of Judah, saying, Go into the house of the Rechabites, and speak unto them, and bring them into the house of the Lord, into one of the chambers, and give them wine to drink. So who are we speaking to right here? We're told to go into the house of the Rechabites. The Rechabites is who we are speaking to. Who's getting spoke to right here in Jeremiah chapter 35. Alright, we're going to go down here to verse 11. And this is going to tell you something right here. But it came to pass, when Nebuchadnezzar, king of Babylon, came up into the land, that we said, Come, and let us go to Jerusalem, for fear of the army of the Chaldeans, and for fear of the army of the Syrians, so we dwell at Jerusalem. So what's that telling you right there? It's telling you that these Rechabites, they went to Jerusalem to go hide out. Why? Because they feared the army of the Chaldeans and the army of the Syrians. So they're going to go hide out there in Jerusalem. That way then they can lie and say, hey, we're Jews. Just like I can say, I'm not lying to you, but I'm from Indiana. But I can sit here and say, hey, someone come in here right now and they're like, we're looking for all the Tennesseans, everyone else will kill. I can be like, hey, I'm a Tennessean, man. And they're like, oh, really? I'm like, yeah, I'm a Tennessean. And then, I could say that because I live here, but I really am not. And these guys right here, these Rechabites, they can say, now that they live in Jerusalem, they can just, they're Jews, but only because they live there. Alright, these Rechabites, who are they? Well, I tell you what, we'll find out. I'll show you what we'll find out if you'll flip back to 1 Chronicles, chapter 2, verse 55. Alright, we're going to pick it up. We're going to go with it right now. I may not be able to pronounce all these right, just bear with me. And the families of the scribes which dwelt in Jabaz, the Tirathites, and the Shemathites, and the Sachathites, these are the Kenites that came from Hemath, the father of the house of Rechab. So right there, who is all these people? They're the Kenites. And what are the Kenites? We're going to read it again. These are the Kenites that came from Hemath, the father of the house of Rechab. So there you go. These Rechabites, the father of that house, that's the Kenites. So right there we know. So these Kenites, what's wrong with these Kenites? So right now, we know, this right here will tell you, we know who the Church of Smyrna and the Church of Philadelphia talked about. Those that, claim to be Jews and lie and who are not, are these Kenites. They moved to Jerusalem for one reason, for protection. That way they can get there and lie and say, hey, we're Jews. So that's why they're there for it. So we know the Kenites is the ones, once again, that's the ones that's getting talked about in Revelations 2:9 and Revelations 3:9. So, well, what's so wrong with these Kenites? What's the deal with the Kenites? I tell you what, you're not going to find out in this lecture. We're going to do it again. I'll have another one, but just, go over this again and check me out. I read from the King James Version Bible. I don't mess with any of the other ones. I used to. I don't now, because they'll lead you the wrong way anyways. But you watch this again and just follow me in there and look. I haven't told you anything that's false. I might have, no, I didn't mess up any. But check these Kenites out. Now, I hope this right here is kind of open your eyes to some stuff to let you know, where we're at. We're in the 5th trump right now, which is the learning. Trying to get all of God's elect, get the seal in their forehead. It's trying to get that seal in their mind, in their forehead, in their brain. But anyways, I hope that you've learned some stuff from this. See that prophecy, Jeremiah chapter 24, was wrote many years ago. It was, and the Jews, when they got took captive in Jeremiah chapter 25, they tried to get back to Israel, to Jerusalem. They tried to get back for 2,000 years. And along in that 2,000 year period, everyone's been trying to wipe them out. It wasn't as easy as they could just go home. It wasn't that easy. It wasn't like E.T. and phone home, It wasn't like that at all. It wasn't that easy. They tried to go home. And they always got, taken captive. And everyone always tried to just wipe them out. But finally in 1948, they got to go home. And you know why? Because God said it. Jeremiah chapter 24, he said, hey, I'll put them back in that land. I'll bring them back. Whatever God says goes. There's nothing you can do about it to stop it. He said they'll come back into this land, and he brought them back in 1948. So there you go. I hope that hope this has helped you out some, and let's hope maybe it'll have opened some of y'all's eyes out there, and lead you. This kind of stuff is stuff that you should be learning in church. You should be learning things like this, not a verse here, a verse there, and then 45 minutes of the preacher talking about, himself or whatever, or this verse means this and this verse means that. That's not how it works, man. It's telling a story. God's trying to tell you a story. His love letter right here, 66 books long. He wrote it for you. And if you got a King James Version Bible, your Bible says the exact same thing as mine. So it says the same thing. You just gotta study and show yourself approved. 2 Timothy chapter 2 verse 11. Just do that. But I thank you and appreciate it. Appreciate your time.